Hello, and welcome to the talk on Life is Your Journey. This is a 30-part series, and this is the third part, the formative years, 0 to 7, the ages of from birth to the age of 7. My name is Bhavna Mystery, and I am the Heart-Centered Mentor. So today I'm going to continue from the second part of what I discussed, that the journey begins from birth. The moment you decide to take birth, your journey has begun. So now you have arrived at the beginning of your journey. You're at the first stages of your journey. You've just been born. How do you feel? What's going on inside you? Is there a connection with your parents? Is there a connection with your mom? How is the energy feeling to you? Now, at this point in your life, you are far more connected to Source, of who you are, to your soul, than you are at any other point in your life. At this point, you are still very much not embracing human life. You are still very much true to yourself, very much true to your soul. Only at this time, you cannot communicate it. You can't communicate to your parents, look, I'm here to have this life experience, and this is what I'm here to do. You can't do that. The communication doesn't exist at that point in your life. Communication is through crying. Usually it's about feed, just the physical body, getting used to being in the physical body, getting used to being fed and nurtured and looked after and loved. You know, you've come from a space of pure unconditional love. Suddenly you're in a completely different environment. There's other people around you, there's stuff going on. You're not necessarily seeing unconditional love all the time, though admittedly with babies, most people have a sense of, oh, baby, and something in their heart opens up, their gentleness opens up, and babies bring that out. Why do babies bring that out of people? Because they are in that state of pure unconditional love. Most of us never experience that later in life, but you did. That's how you started out in the world. That's who you were. You were your truth. You came with your truth. Only the truth begins to diminish. How does the truth begin to diminish? As you go through life, you're trained. So from 0 to 1, you'll go through lots of training of what it means to live in a human body. You need to learn to walk, you need to learn to eat properly, you need to do all the bodily functions that are required of you. And then all these things will be conditioned to you depending on your parents' conditioning. You know, that people don't like you to burp. As you grow from 0 to 7, you're taught manners, you're taught behaviour, you're taught how to respond, you're taught when to speak, you're taught when you're going to be listened to, you're taught about conditional love. It begins at this point. If you behave yourself, I'll express love to you. This is when love starts becoming conditional. These are the seeds that are planted into you between the ages of 0 and 7. All the seeds that you receive in your life are your seeds for life. All the decisions you make at that point influence your beliefs. So this is where our problems are seated. Most of our problems can be returned back to some time between just before birth to the ages up to the age of 7. And that's when we learned all our habits. That's when we learned to get approval. That's when we learned to manipulate, if that's what you do, or to fight, or to, some kids punch a lot, some to get what they want, and they get away with it. They've not been taught differently. Some kids cry a lot. So these habits become your habits, the foundation of your habits. They're the seeds of your habits. Yes, so what you do from age 0 to 7 will be significantly different when you're an adult. But between the ages of 0 and 7, all your habits are formed. So if you're taught to be polite, you're always going to be polite. If you're taught not to speak up, it becomes harder for you to speak up. It all depends on how you responded to what you were being taught. So if you've got older brothers and sisters and they speak out, then you're more likely to speak out. If you've got other older brothers and sisters that tell you to stay quiet, you're more likely to stay quiet. If you're used to being the bossy one, you're more likely to be bossy. All these relationships that you build in your early years is what guides you forwards. It's what you actually learn to integrate through the next 7 years. So we're just talking primarily about 0 to 7. Really think about what happens as you're growing up. Between 0 and 1, you're being trained to live as a person. Between 1 and 2, you're learning to walk, you're learning to get around. Boundaries start being put into place. You get told off. You can't, there are places are off limits, like stairs. Of course, these things are for your safety, but as a child, you don't necessarily recognize that. Fire guards, you start seeing, you watch adults eating food, but you don't get the same stuff. You see differences, you see different treatment. You want to get to that stage where you can be an adult eating the same food. You watch kids, that's what they want to do. 2 and 3, you're really testing your boundaries. And, I remember watching my cousin's kids, literally, when they would come round, they would want to do something that they know their parents would disapprove of. And I've actually seen the kids look at their parent before they're about to do something. And if their parent's watching, and I saw my cousin give a signal saying, don't do that, they sit back and they don't do it. So they're not being allowed to be natural. We've lost our naturalness because we're not allowed to be kids. We're not allowed to explore. Yes, part of it's for the safety, but part of it, a lot of it, will be social conditioning. And depending on how your own environment works with social conditioning will depend on whether or not you feel the freedom in your life or whether you don't feel the freedom in your life. So this is the whole purpose of understanding your formative years, because it is in this period all the seeds of who you are planted in your energy body. Your energy body at this point becomes the foundation of your life. This is really important to understand. This is why it's really important to understand that whatever boundaries you give kids, if you're giving them conditional love and everything is on a conditional basis, that's how they'll operate in life. And this is what most of us have grown up with. This is what most of us understand. And this is what, in the personal development world, in the spiritual world, everybody is undoing. To let go of old patterns, let go of the old seeds, there are limiting forces. So these first 7 years, whatever you've learned, whatever boundaries there are, they are the boundaries that you take forward into adulthood. So that's the formative years. So as you can see, we've come from the journey of knowing we've arrived at a soul. The soul has arrived, and suddenly you begin to lose your truth. You begin to lose unconditional love. You begin to lose understanding who you are from where you arrived at the point of birth, through all your social, cultural and environmental conditioning as you're growing up between the ages of 0 and 7. So this is what we're dealing with. So tomorrow I will continue with the series, and we'll look briefly at the consolidating years, and we'll probably go through up to 21 because this is basically building on the first 7 years. So let's talk about that tomorrow, and then we can get on with the rest of the series. Thank you for listening. Sorry about that. My name is Bhavna Mystery, and I am the Heart-Centered Mentor. And I'll see you in series part 4.